Hello and welcome back to another episode of DNA Live. My name is Jeff Wright. This is the show where we come to you, our global audience, live to discuss things on the level of worldview and to discuss those worldviews themselves. Today, I have a very special guest, Ina Richards. She'll be with us in a moment. But first, I want to welcome anyone who is new to this show today. Thank you so much for joining us. Please leave a comment below telling us who you are, where you're from. We'd love to engage with you. Thank you for being here. Also, like and share this video, subscribe to this channel, follow this page. We appreciate it. We'd love to invite you into this conversation that we're having every week. If you'd like to support the work of the DNA, you can visit disciplenations.org/donate and make a gift to our work. Also on that website, disciplenations.org, there are plenty of resources available to help equip you and others with biblical worldview, ways to learn more about it, ways to apply it and transform your sphere of influence. So we hope that is a blessing to you. And again, thank you for being here. I now want to introduce to you our guest, Ina Richards. She is the founder and CEO of Work for a Living in South Africa and around the world. I'm going to invite her in right now. Ina, would you join us, please? How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. I raced through that beginning because I am probably captain of your cheerleading team. I'm a big fan of yours. I love what you're doing. I love your heart and your mind for equipping and empowering people to lift themselves out of poverty. And I appreciate above your heart and your mind, your practical application in doing so. So I'm glad to have you here. And I'm excited for our audience to meet you as well. So please, maybe as an icebreaker, since we have a global audience, it's a global alliance here. Can you give us a little insight into what's happening in South Africa right now with the coronavirus and how that's affected life?
Yeah, so I think we're in level 3 at the moment.
Out of how many levels?
There are 5 levels.
Okay.
We were in level 5 for a very long time, which means you were not allowed to buy any patio furniture, any open shoes, and very strange things. And of course, we were very much confined to our homes. So level 3 means, I think my husband's very happy that the golf course is open today. So at least he can get out a little bit.
That's a good social distancing sport, you know?
Exactly, yes. They've allowed running before golf. So
right.
He's not been happy about that, but it's been good. It's been a wonderful time with family. All my kids are at home with us. Our kids are at home with us, so it's been good.
Nice. Yeah. I had mentioned that it's a little earlier for me, so I'll have a cup of coffee. You can get a glass of wine, and you said you can't. I mean, you mentioned you can't buy all sorts of things, right?
Up till about a week ago, no alcohol and no cigarettes.
Well.
So that's really made the country very, very unhappy.
On edge, yeah. Maybe not for you or I, but yes.
Yeah, right. No, absolutely. But it's good.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about Work for a Living.
So Work for a Living, we started Work for a Living about almost 14 years ago. And the idea was that we wanted to do something about poverty. I was just heartbroken about poverty. I think I'd been asking the Lord for a couple of years, what is my purpose? What am I supposed to do with my life? And I read Isaiah 58, and Isaiah 58 really just broke my heart, specifically for the poor. So Work for a Living was founded out of that. And what we do is we basically, our passion and our heart is, number one, to get people to take a step towards Jesus. But number 2, we want to see people working. We want to see people thriving in the workplace. And Work for a Living has, for the last 13 years, mostly been about jobs, about getting people into employment, changing their worldview, getting them to live according to a biblical worldview. But they must work And once they're working, they need to progress and thrive. And then the other aspect of what we do, besides the job readiness, is Wired for Business, which is very much getting people to start businesses. So in the mix of all of that is upskilling people, obviously being able to allow people to get some skills, but the heart of it, we want to see people working, thriving, and fully discipled, because our view is if you are discipled, you will be working.
Yeah, I've spoken with you in person a few times. I've seen you talk a few times in person, and it's always struck me how matter of fact that comes across to you, right? Because of the worldview you have. Whereas, the first time I heard it, I go, of course, that's a matter of fact statement. And the way you present it, I really I appreciate that. So, you mentioned Wired for Business.
Yes.
That's a pretty new endeavor. How old is that compared to the organization as a whole?
So I'd say we've been testing it for the last 18 months to 2 years. We've been piloting it at our various centers. Our Work for a Living job readiness program is built on centers. So physical centers where people come, they sit through a program, they link to job opportunities, we give them the foundations of business. And we've been trying it in that model, but we were never really happy that it was 100% right. And of course, then COVID-19 happened, and the Lord forced our hand and developed it into something that has taken absolute a life of its own, in the sense that we condensed it into something. We basically took about 40 hours of teaching and condensed it into WhatsApp slides. So we had to get the secret sauce, the essential oils out of everything that we were teaching, and we put it into this material that was easily available to people. And the results, and then we formed groups where people could actually mentor, facilitators, disciple makers could mentor a group of would-be entrepreneurs or existing entrepreneurs. And we have seen, I think overnight we had 400 students, 600 students register. We ended up in our first group with about just under 400 finishing, and we've had close to 100 businesses start during lockdown, which has taken us completely and utterly by surprise.
Wow.
But it's not the business component; it's the worldview component, the wisdom entrenched in worldview teaching that we add in every day that has actually been the power behind it.
Wow. I want to unpack that in a little bit. So you mentioned WhatsApp, and I imagine the global audience listening knows what that is. I measure a good globally minded American by whether or not they WhatsApp with me or just use regular message, right? Because it is the messaging service of choice, right? And it's the platform you use.
Well, it was the lowest common denominator we
right.
could find, because data was such an issue here. So what we did is we've used Facebook. Subsequently, we've changed it a little bit. We've put it on a learning management system, and people can use WhatsApp to form groups. They can form Zoom groups. You can do whatever you want. It obviously depends on your accessibility to data, etc.
Yeah. So, okay, I want to step back a little bit into your genesis, your origin story here, and you say your heart is breaking for the poor, and you want to do something about it. Depending on your worldview, that could mean very different things. I mean, there's a big difference between knowing where you want to go and knowing how to get there, right? And so I think I was eavesdropping on this conversation at the Global Forum, and you were sharing about, and I don't know if this is a parable or this really happened, and you don't need to throw anybody under the bus, but you were sharing about the best intentioned Christian man who wanted to lift a community out of poverty, and in doing so impoverished multiple generations of that community. Do you remember that story? I do. Could you share a wrong way that a Christian could want to help?
Well, we've seen it many times. The one
Right.
I could mention a whole lot. This one specifically is a well-meaning, relatively wealthy Christian businessman who, in a community, sets up a feeding scheme together with a church setting. So church setting. So in other words, a church environment, and everybody comes and gets fed on a Thursday or Friday, and then straight after that they'll have church. The man is well-meaning. His heart is right. He wants to see people's lives, desperate for the poor.
Amen.
But the consequence of that was that when we actually started a center in that one of those communities, that the children would come and say, well, on this specific day, the children would come asking for food. The consequence of, there's so many consequences of that are problematic. The community has got poorer and poorer and poorer over the years. Even for us to start there, I mean, we had tremendous problems and resistance from the community. The church that we were involved in actually stopped the feeding scheme and has done the most incredible things in terms of empowering people and uplifting people. They've helped us set up a center, and it's been an absolutely beautiful thing to see. But it's a difficult thing. We've seen it all over the world. We've seen it in centers all over the world. Not only that, so not only the whole handout mentality. The hard thing is, I mean, when we started in Kenya, and we run our programs, we've got a small charge, about $6, probably $5 or $6, because we're trying to deal with entitlement. We're trying to empower people to help themselves. And when we started in Kenya, we had people come and say, but no, why are you making us pay? You must pay us. We want a sitting fee, because we know that the wealthy NGOs from the West get many millions of dollars to come and do their work here, and we want in on it. So, there's a woman, her surname is Batliwala, and she's an Indian activist, social activist. And, she just speaks about empowerment. Empowerment is getting people to themselves, to understand themselves, that they have control over their resources, their belief systems, their mindsets. And I think we are certainly, with all the worldview teaching we've received over the years from DNA, we are firm believers in that, in people thriving, standing strong, being empowered to help themselves, not being dependent. And this whole thing with COVID-19, that has broken my heart all over again, that we as a continent, certainly as a nation, we cannot even feed ourselves. In a crisis like this, we are unable to support ourselves, that we have to have government feed us. And we are one of many, many nations. And you know what? The time has come for it to stop. And for us as Christians to not be focused on getting people into church, but are focused on seeing people living a life where they thrive and living a life full of the Lord's wisdom.
Amen. So 13 years ago, you're starting Work for a Living, and you didn't have the worldview element baked in yet. What did that look like?
That was interesting time. So, of course, my heart's broken now. I know I've got to do something. And of course, what does one do in a situation like that? You go onto the internet, you see what the problems are. The problems are people don't have jobs. The problems are that people don't have funding for businesses. So we thought, okay, well, you know what, we can fix that. So we went out and we got people jobs, and we got help people start businesses, and we got funding for people to start businesses. I mean, we're hardworking people that can get the job done, and it was a disaster. I wouldn't say it was a complete failure, but it was pretty much a failure. You know, the people that we helped start businesses, I mean, I think someone, you know, the guys stole the lawnmower and it was a mess. And the jobs that people got, they quit their jobs. And we couldn't understand what was going on. And we were so heartbroken by the whole thing, you know. And And I think just realizing that there was a problem and that we needed to address it in a slightly different way.
Mm-hmm. So tell me about starting to crack that nut.
So our pastor, John Scholz at the time, had been to a vision conference with Darrow many years ago. And our pastor started teaching on biblical worldview in church. And when we heard it, it was like, hey, this is something. There must be some real truth in this. And we started building this biblical worldview into our program, teaching people, as a man thinks, so is he. We started dealing with culture. We started dealing with all the aspects of excellence and that we need to be excellence. And we started unpacking, breaking poverty down, dealing with mindsets, the poverty mindset. Wow, how powerful was that? And we started seeing incredible breakthroughs with people giving their lives to the Lord, whole families coming through the program that had been unemployed for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Just one example is a woman coming with her 3 daughters, unemployed for 3 years. Her daughters had never worked. Within 6 weeks of completing Work for a Living, all 4 of them had received Jesus as their Lord and Savior, and all 4 of them were working, and that wasn't because we were helping them. It wasn't, hey, here's a job. It was because something just clicked. They were like, well, what have we been doing for the last 2 years, 3 years? And that's what we've got to do. It's not difficult.
Right.
We've just got to do it.
Ina, at DNA, where we say ideas have consequences, right? That words matter. They carry weight. And you witness that, right? I mean, it's sometimes it almost seems supernatural to think about, right? But changing a paradigm, breaking someone from a mindset. So speak a little bit about what the poverty mindset is. What was illuminated through your comparison with a biblical worldview?
So I think firstly, the way we put the poverty mindset across to our students is I'm poor, I'll always be poor, I cannot change. And the feedback we got immediately from the students was, yes, we watch the sun come up in the morning and we watch the sun go down at night. It's as if that was just like, as we said it to them, I'm poor, I'll always be poor, I cannot change. As a group, as a class, for some reason, they would just say, yes, we watch the sun come up and we watch the sun go down and nothing happens in between. And that feeling of there is nothing for me is so incredibly powerful. So that feeling of there's nothing for me, coupled with the dialogue in the communities that there is nothing for us, coupled with a government grant system where you get are you familiar with a grant system?
Maybe not in your context, but yeah, please share.
So we've got a grant system where if somebody has a child, they get a couple of $100 just to be able to. So it's like a poverty grant, but it's to support, to buy diapers and to be able to buy baby food and so on. But coupled with a grant system, and coupled with an incredible dependency, has had devastating consequences. So it's that concept of I'm convinced there's nothing for me. I'm convinced there's no jobs because everyone's telling me there's no jobs. Therefore, it's evidenced around me. And then with the fact that there's like a little bit just given, and it's just enough to keep people from starving. It's a desperate, ugly situation. And it gets people to live in a way that they don't need to live. It's a beautiful thing to see somebody who hasn't worked for 5 years just like that. They think differently and they start working. But it's also so frustrating because there's so many people that we need to reach to be able to do that. I mean, we were speaking about it the other day. There's a community that I'm specifically referring to. There are 2 little communities, 2 suburbs effectively. They're separated by a road, okay? In one community, and it's 2 poor community, relatively poor communities, but in the one community, most of the people are working. It's sort of normal to work. It's normal to have a job. It's normal to send your children to school. So everybody there leaves school and goes to work. A road separates the 2, and next door, that community, no one works, no one is educated. And the dialogue there is there's no opportunities. So they live in the same city, the same opportunities, but there's just the consequence of one is people work, the consequence of another is people don't. To take it to a larger level, if you go and look in South Africa, and I know it's probably quite similar in the States, we have many foreigners from our neighboring countries coming into South Africa. So we have many people from Zimbabwe, we have many people coming from a lot of the countries around South Africa. When many of the foreigners arrive in South Africa, they look around and they're like, this is the land of milk and honey. This is the land of opportunity. They phone their family and they say, this is the land of opportunity. You need to come here. They all start businesses. They're all working. And yet many South Africans will say, this is the land of hopelessness. And we see this in nations around the world.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what is a specific example of a teaching that you emphasize? Now they're in the classroom, they're sitting down. What are you teaching?
Is this for work for a living? You mean in our job readiness?
Yeah.
So our process is always, we'll start from quite a secular perspective, in the sense that it's job interviews, or we'll start basic business, but it's really easing into it. Remember, as I said right at the beginning, our primary goal is to get people to take a step towards Jesus and to get people to thrive. To get both of those, we really need to earn the trust of the people. So we start in a way where we really try and get into their lives, and we really try and help as much as possible. We deal with financial literacy. And when financial literacy comes about, it's like, hey, these guys genuinely want to help me. And from there, we then start. So we'll take really practical things, practical, simple things like, how do you, when you have a boss who is amazing, how do you put boundaries in place? When you plan to go and buy your child a pair of shoes, and you see school shoes, and you see a pair of shoes that you really, really like, what do you do in that instance, and what does it do for your budget? Issues relating to compound interest. But interspersed in all of that is always biblical worldview. Sometimes it's in the form of scripture, but it's always driving home this biblical worldview that we're wanting people to understand. So the one allows us, like a carrot effectively, to be able to speak into people's lives and get into their homes. Towards the end of the program, the further on we go, the deeper we get into biblical worldview, the deeper we get into issues relating to culture, the real problem areas. We actually present the gospel during Work for a Living, and we have many, many people give their lives to Jesus. They're baptized the next day. There's amazing stuff that happens. And then from there, the journey happens with regards to discipleship, and of course, linking them to job opportunities and business opportunities. So for Work for a Living, a class looks 8 to 12, and then they can come and do skills programs in the afternoons. Our business program, we're running it online, or it can happen in a classroom environment. And Work for a Living, we're going to be doing more and more online as well, because we've just seen the power of what can be done online. So it's two settings, either an online setting or a live class setting where people come because of the carrot of either a job or a business, but it allows us to then feed and speak into their lives.
So does that carrot extend into the community once they're in the seat and you have the voice to earn their trust, and then you earn their trust and you can share more? That's one thing, but what about people that haven't walked into a Work for a Living center? I mean, is there what's going to bring them to the door?
So all of our people come because of word of mouth. So we've got waiting lists at some of our centers up to 3 months of people just saying, hey, I've heard about it, Mum. I mean, the other day we had a woman who was the granddaughter of our first student 13 years ago. And the grandmom is working, the mom is working, and she's just finished school. And it's like a rite of passage for all the kids now to come to the Work for a Living Center to get their worldview sorted out before they go onto university or onto a job. So it's a word of mouth thing. I think we've been around long enough for people perhaps to trust what we're doing, and then planting centers in countries, in communities, in cities, and the Lord's just given us a tool that somehow hits home and somehow gets people to think differently and somehow gets people working, and therefore they tell each other. It's that simple, I think.
Yeah. So, I see the church in that, right? In that it's the people outside seeing the goodness of the kingdom and wanting a part of that, and they say, "Oh, go to that center," and that's where we got it. And you're
exactly, and that is
you're advancing the
exactly
kingdom.
what
Yeah.
we wanted, what we felt the Lord say to us to do. You need to become people where the community says, go to those people, they'll help you. And we want the Lord to be glorified through it. And because our centers run at churches a lot of the times, we want people to see the church is a beautiful thing that can help people. In fact, we've got some centers now that are the pastor himself in poor communities from Monday to Friday runs a Work for a Living center where he draws the community to him. He's able to get the community working. He's able to present the gospel to them. He's able to lead them to the Lord. He's able to help them find a job, and he runs a church on a Sunday, and he can actually generate an income from the center. So it's such a beautiful model for the Lord to be glorified and for the church to really, really have a massive impact in a community. We really want more of those where churches are actively involved in running a center and changing the face of poverty. I mean, we should not have poor, unemployed people in a church, should we?
Amen. So I've had this exact experience with a South African, and I told you I'm a Ina Richards cheerleader. And so I was talking to a pastor who's trying to do poverty relief. He's South African. And I said, talk to Ina. I sent your stuff to him. And I just think it didn't register. Do you run into that where the Christian brother or sister needs an extra jolt to say, no, it is employment. It's empowering and equipping them to do it themselves.
We see it so much. It's the biggest frustration. And I think the frustration for us is, and this is going to be a very hard thing that I'm going to say now.
Okay.
But we see poverty preached from the pulpit. We see pastors who don't actually believe that they can help people out of poverty. We see pastors who speak hopelessness and speak blame and speak you're a victim of circumstance, and the pastors keep their people poor. And it's a very frustrating thing because it's just so easy to fix. It's written in the Bible. The truth that is there is the solution, but we've got to believe it. We've actually got to believe that we can get people out of this situation. And it's a strange thing. Maybe we simplify it. We do simplify things a lot, but you know what? The Lord has given us, I think, the fruit in the period to show that what he's given us works. And all he's given us is the gospel in the middle of either a business program or a jobs program. I mean, it's the gospel that changes, the gospel truth, the actual biblical truth that's changing people's lives, not the jobs and the businesses. I mean, that's a great side issue, but a side issue nevertheless.
Amen, sister. So I know you like to navigate the nuance. I actually have a question from one of my colleagues right now to touch on it as well. Navigating the nuance between beliefs and culture. And you're addressing their beliefs. They're part of a culture. How do you navigate that?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest things we learned earlier, obviously having no clue about this and walking into a place where angels fear to tread, a minefield of animism and traditional beliefs that I've got no knowledge of whatsoever. And we really spent years and years and years trying to learn from our students as much as we can to see how powerful this animistic worldview can be in any country where the spirits of the dead are worshipped, venerated, uplifted, whether it be a Day of the Dead in Mexico, whether it be ancestral worship in Africa, it all looks the same. And we thought, well, how are we going to deal with it? Because when it's raised, when we started raising it initially in the classrooms, there was just a complete and utter block. Do not go, as in, not even a block, as in, you will not speak about this any further. You have no right. Keep quiet, to the point of to the point of violence in the classroom, of people saying, be quiet now. So just the spirit rising up. And we realized, hey, this is a big deal. We've got to find a way to deal with it. And one of the tools that the Lord gave us is to separate culture and belief. So people are very proud of their culture, and we all should be. We should be proud of our culture and proud of the culture that we are born into. But if you realize, if you actually separate the two and you say, hey, here's a belief system. This belief system of worshiping your ancestors or the spirits of the dead, it's a belief system. It's not culture. If you go and ask any person who has that belief system, they'll say it's my culture and leave my culture alone. So we separate the two. We separate culture from belief. We say your culture is awesome, but let's look at the fruit of your belief system. Let's go and look. Tell me truthfully, can you say with conviction and back it up with research that worshiping the spirits of the dead has worked out for you? Can you tell me, can you look at Africa and say, wow, our primary belief system is worshiping the spirits of the dead, right? Can you tell me truthfully that it has impacted our continent and our country, or South America, or anywhere where it's, and you know, the people are like, well, actually, I've never thought of it. But we ask them, does it worry you? Does it worry you that somebody will spend $5,000 slaughtering goats or slaughtering cows over the years to appease their ancestors, but you haven't got a bicycle to drive to work? Does it worry you? And slowly but surely that seed is planted, and we start speaking about the issue. We raise up Isaiah 8. Isaiah 8 says, if you speak to the spirits of the dead, you're going to end up in the dark with nothing. A blank wall, an empty hole with nothing. And the truth of it, that is the case. And all we do is we present that. We separate the two, say, just be aware they're separate. And we say, but go and read the scripture. Read it for yourself now. You might or might not be a Christian. And just tell us if the evidence isn't there. Think about that. So all we do is plant the seed. And we've had so many people come back to us and say, it's given me so much freedom to realize that I can still love my culture. I'm still part of that culture, but I just choose to be a Christian, or I choose not to follow that way. It's like two brothers. One is a Christian, the other one follows a New Age belief system. They're part of the same culture. They both love their culture. They both love each other, but they've got a different belief system. It really allowed many, many people to be set free and allowed them to turn their back on a poverty-driven belief system, but love their culture.
I've been encouraged before by, I don't know if you want to share them, but I've been encouraged before by your numbers of percentage of students that come. You don't just say, you say, make a commitment to being discipled and follow Jesus, right? I think that's how you measure it. And what are those numbers like?
Yeah, so that's been a beautiful thing to see. And the nice thing is, so on day 11 of a 12-day program, we actually present the gospel. And it's literally all it is. We've learned the hard way not to bring somebody in who's going to preach at them, because the work has been done up to this point. We're discipling people into salvation, from the time they work through our door, from the time they start our business program, we're discipling them into salvation. And on day 11, we actually just give a testimony and say, hey guys, who wants that? You know, and who's ready to change their lives, and who's ready to give up the old ways? I think in last year, we had 2,200 students give their lives to Jesus, which is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And the task is then to make sure that those people are discipled. And specifically with the business program, that's why we've been so excited about it, because it's really, really allowed us to disciple people on a more one-to-one basis. So the discipleship aspect is really important. It's great that we have people saved, but the task is to make sure that those people are discipled.
Oh, what gets me excited is now you're sending discipled Christians into the workplace.
Yes.
To be that, to advance the kingdom in their workplace, towards their coworkers, towards their employees or employers, towards their clients and customers. And their
communities. I mean, we've got one lady, I brag about her a lot. She works for a pharmaceutical company. She heard about what we were doing. She works night shift. She finished at 6 o'clock in the morning. She would come and sit in our class from 8 o'clock till 12 o'clock after working the whole night shift for 2 weeks. Then she went back to her community in a very, very, probably one of the most rural, poor parts of South Africa. She gathered her family and said, you're coming with me right now to the next one. She did it again. And she sat through it again with her family to make sure that they attended. And she's impacting her community. They've gone back. She's become a wired facilitator. They've planted macadamia trees. They've bought chickens. They've got a chicken farm. They've got a creche with early childhood development center with 22 children in it. So for us, that's important. When somebody takes what we've been able to give them and they go back to the community and they affect change there. I mean, those are the champions, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's wow. It's seeing the kingdom advance. Amen. Yeah. That's great. Yeah. So it's not just about getting people jobs. It's about creating jobs, creating business as well. Yes. Right. And is there a big difference in the mindset you're trying to equip people with?
Very, very much so.
Okay.
The majority of people, sorry, did you want to say something, Jeff?
No, just the difference between people you're trying to prepare for employment versus people you're trying to equip to start their own thing.
Yeah. It's been a lot harder to get people to think entrepreneurially. We've just realized jobs are fantastic. With COVID-19, we don't know what jobs are going to be available afterwards. We don't know if people are still going to be employing. Our centers are starting to open up slowly but surely. Mm-hmm. And we just feel that there's an urgency from the Lord. We need to be helping people. We need to be getting people to start businesses. And business knowledge is not enough. Business knowledge is available anywhere on the internet. But it's that worldview, the wisdom. Our whole business program is based on wisdom, is built, the wisdom aspect of it. Sorry, the worldview aspect is based on wisdom. And we got so much from Darrow's book on wisdom and so many more aspects. But when people realize it's as if it's a foreign concept, the concept of wisdom, and we dig deep into that thing, and we dig a lot deeper with the entrepreneurship program into aggressively changing people's mindset that they have to work, they can work, there are no opportunities for you. What are you going to do? You have to start a business. And you can start a business, and we're going to hold your hand, and you don't need capital, and you don't need a business plan. You just, you need to think differently. And if you think differently, you will, we will help you as far as we possibly can. But so I think it's just been a little bit harder because people naturally just want a job. It's easy to just get a job, but the fruit of it has been phenomenal, because if businesses start, people get employed. And the nice thing is that if you want to start a business, you have control of it. If you want to get a job, you've got to go out there and someone's got to employ you. But if you want to start a business, I can start a business tomorrow.
Wait, Ina, I don't have any resources available to me. I don't own anything to sell.
Yes, sell your clothes.
Right. So let's get into that. So I love how Darrow, I've been in the room dozens of times when Darrow talks about this. I've heard you say the same thing. Let's talk about the scarcity of resources,
Yes.
how worldview affects the way we view what is available to us as a resource.
So that has been a major, has had a major impact in how we teach both Work for a Living and Wired for Business. The concept that resources are not limited, especially in Africa with our terrible, terrible colonialist and apartheid past. Land is an issue, and the land is really seen as something incredibly powerful and magical. In other words, if I get the land, I know that I'm going to be successful. But when we actually unpack that with many of our students and we say, but you need to understand that the land is just a piece of land. You are the resource, the creativity, the imagination that the Lord has put in you. If you don't understand that you are the resource, what's going to happen is the successful farmer is going to move off the land. You're going to farm that land and it's not going to be successful. And sadly, there's lots of evidence to prove that. But when we prove to our students, say, but you need to, what land do you have? What can you do with the land that you've got back home? You need to farm it. Why is the land not being farmed? I mean, we've got an area in South Africa, which is one of the most fertile areas in the whole of South Africa. It's got 0.4% or something under cultivation. It's the most fertile land in South Africa. And when we start speaking about these things, that the resource is in the individual, you are the resource. God has put in you the imagination and the creativity needed to be able to be a successful farmer, to be able to be a successful entrepreneur. Man, we've had people saying, what am I doing in the city trying to get a cashier job? What am I doing here trying to get a waitering job? I've got land back home. I'm going back to farm, like that girl, that woman that I told you about. And that's been a beautiful thing. That's been almost as powerful as that concept of poverty mindset. When our students realize, I actually have control, and I have to do something. That ownership. We speak about worker versus owner. We say a worker is someone who just gets by and does the bare minimum. An owner is not necessarily the owner of a business, but it's someone who takes ownership of their resources, their finances, their thinking. When people grasp that thing, the sky's the limit. And that's a beautiful thing to see. Our challenge after that, however, people start with no control. They come into our centers with no control. We teach them control, that they've got control, and then we've got to get them to relinquish control to Jesus. Because otherwise you've got arrogant, competent. With all due respect to the West, Jeff, you guys have dealt with your poverty mindset mostly. You guys have dealt with the issues of any inferiority, but if it's not being replaced with the gospel, what do you have? You have people saying, my way is the right way. I have rights and nobody's going to step on my rights. And we see that here as well, where it's so important to bring the gospel in, to teach people to love each other, to be humble, and to understand that the Lord has given us the ability to create wealth, that it's not our ability and intellect and effort that gets us to thrive in the workplace.
Amen. Yeah, we talk about how the biblical worldview needs to be comprehensive, because if it runs out of runway one way or another, then when it's gone, you fall back on whatever you knew before and believed before, and that you fill out the story with incorrect information after that. Right?
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. So what is your definition of success then, as you're hoping and praying for success for the people in your centers and Wired for Business?
Well, as I said earlier, if we can get people to live according to a biblical worldview, if we can get people discipled, if people are discipled, they'd be working. I mean, you would understand the fullness of the gospel. The fullness of the gospel is not come to church on Sunday. The fullness of the gospel is not salvation. The fullness of the gospel is not to lie and not to cheat. The fullness of the gospel is to take ground, to multiply, to grow ourselves, to develop our thinking, to prosper in our thinking, to thrive and to live a life according to wisdom. We want to see Isaiah 58:6 happen, where the cords of the yoke are broken, people are set free, and the yoke of poverty is broken over their lives so that they can live in the fullness of what Jesus had for them. And we just need an army of people to help us do that. The Lord has given us a tool that is gospel-centered. Like I said earlier, it's a Trojan horse, encased in business or encased in jobs, that's got the gospel at the center of it. And we need an army of people that can help us take that into the nations. So
we have about 15 minutes left. Maybe we don't need the whole time to do this, but talk more about your needs. Talk more about what you see the future potential for your program to be, and what tools and resources and allies you're looking for to help make that happen.
Okay, so I'd say and from a foundational perspective, we've got two key programs that really impact change. One is Work for a Living, the job readiness program. The other one is Wired for Business. We also have many skills programs, but the skills programs are skills programs. You could do skills programs anywhere. We just make them available at our centers. But those two programs specifically change people's worldview and get them to a place where they're either doing a job or starting a business. So our Work for a Living centers, our present format is that people attend a train the trainer. Someone comes, they're equipped to run a center. They go back and they can actually run the center. And they help people to get employed or help people to start businesses.
And how many countries are there centers in right now?
In 9 countries.
9 countries, okay.
9 countries. And then from there we want to start a Work for a Living center in every city and every town. Wherever there's poverty or need. I mean, it's a fantastic, great, huge dream, but thankfully it's not my problem. It's the Lord's problem, because he's given us the stuff and we've got to spend the rest of our lives trying to make that happen. The second program is the Wired for Business program. And I think for this time that we are in now, we can't do the train the trainer for Work for a Living right now because our centers are closed. We are moving it online, and in the next 3 or 4 months, Work for a Living will also be able to, we'll be able to duplicate that a lot easier. But at the moment, for a time like this, our business program, we need disciple makers to partner with us. We need them to contact us if they feel that it makes their heart beat. They can gather a group of people in a form of a Zoom, with a Zoom meeting, in a WhatsApp group. We've got all the material laid out. They can get the material online. They can gather a group of people, and the end result's going to be people starting businesses. The trainer for that is all online. It'll take them, if they've done Coram Deo, it'll take them a week to go through it. If they haven't done Coram Deo, or if they've done Coram Deo, it might take them probably 5 days. If they haven't done Coram Deo, probably take them, Coram Deo plus the 5 days. So
we haven't mentioned that yet today, but Coram Deo is our free online biblical worldview course. You can go to coramdeo.com. It'll be linked by Sean or Jesse right now, and that'll help you understand what biblical worldview is, understand what your worldview is, and replace it replace your worldview with a biblical worldview. Apply it in real ways. Love your neighbor.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah. So Coram Deo forms the foundations of both of our train the trainer for job readiness and for business. From there, they go through some foundations that we've learned. In other words, our foundations that our poverty foundations, the things we've learned about poverty, the things we've learned about prayer, we're taking on a stronghold. You cannot take on poverty stronghold without incredible prayer support, literal intercession, especially when you're dealing with issues relating to culture and anything to do with that. And our discipleship foundations as well. So it's literally a 2-week program, a 2-week train the trainer. From there, they gather a group of people and help them to start businesses. And in the process, you're going to change their worldview. You're going to get people to live according to a biblical worldview, understand the Lord's wisdom, and start a journey of discipleship that I know will bless the disciple maker way more than it'll bless the disciple. And from there, we hope that the disciples that are made from that start their own groups. We've started seeing that now, where we've had our first 3 groups through Wired for Business during lockdown. And we've seen some of our students, not many yet because it's early days, actually start and inquire from us, hey, I've got a group of 5 friends, or I've got my family and my extended family, can we do it with them? And we put them through the process and they start. And it's a knock-on effect of businesses started, and success breeds success, where if people see, hey, look at this. I mean, we've seen the most incredible businesses started, and people have been sitting before that doing nothing, simply by changing the way they think. That's all. And if we can do it, you can do it.
Amen. So fast forward to 2025. What does this look like now? A few years out.
We want our first step is we want thousands of businesses started. And then from our thousands of businesses started, we want to start from the bottom again and say, okay, the first businesses need to be earning $10,000. Then the next one. So we want to build. So it's so practical that as a mentor, disciple maker, we want you to know what the turnover and profit is in the businesses that you've helped start. It's not put somebody through a course. We want to see businesses started, kingdom businesses, where people live and operate according to a biblical worldview, where they have influence as a result. They are able to employ graduates from our Work for a Living job readiness centers, where we are able to infiltrate the workplace with people who live with wisdom, who've got a voice and influence because they've done well in life and they live according to a biblical worldview, and that filters down into their families. We want to see the church grown. We want churches planted from that, groups started that end up in Discovery Bible studies, and from there we want churches planted where everybody in the church is working. And the pastor is not dependent on the tithes and offerings of his congregation, and the tithes and offerings can be used for the widows and the orphans because the pastor doesn't need it.
So we might have new listeners today. We might have people that have not been a part of this conversation before, and they're hearing you talk about disciple makers, disciples, discipleship. And you haven't mentioned a year-long Bible study yet. You're using discipleship to mean teaching wisdom, and you're using wisdom to mean a biblical worldview. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. And how is that unique from how some people might understand that?
Well, it's an interesting thing. When we started seeing many people give their lives to the Lord, in our programs, we went to the churches that were hosting our centers and said to them, hey, you've just had 15 people on Thursday give their lives to the Lord. Do you want to help us disciple them? And the churches were like, well, what do you mean by disciple? So we were like, well, I don't know what you mean by disciple. You tell us. They said, well, we've got a course. So I said, no, but it can't be a course. No one's going to come to the course. So we realized there's a huge problem. And I think we just decided, well, let's go and see what the Lord says about this. And the whole concept of loving your neighbor. By this, it means see that you're my disciples, that you love your neighbor. If you love your neighbor, it shows that you're my disciple. And God says, love me, love your neighbor. If you love me, you will obey me. So therefore, what pleases him the most? Besides loving him, what pleases him the most? as disciples is to love our neighbor. So we built that into our program where we start discipling using discipline of love. We start teaching our students to love and care for their neighbor. Goodness me, what a revelation. How these students come back and say, I can't tell you what is happening to me, the way I feel by washing up for my neighbor and my neighbor who's got HIV AIDS, and I go and I clean and wash her and I clean her house for her and I go and do washing for her. I can't tell you how it makes me feel. What is this feeling? And it just makes such ripe pickings for us to present the gospel. So discipleship for us means that personal relationship, trying to teach people to live the way Jesus wants us to teach. And whether it's a Work for a Living Center environment, whether it's a coffee, whether it's a daily meeting, whether it's sitting online, sharing with each other, sharing life with each other, teaching each other to love each other, care for each other, and live according to Jesus's ways. That's and to be fruitful. You know, the Lord says, if we're fruitful, it shows that we're His disciples. We want to see fruitful people.
Do you have a microphone you can drop? Do you want me to drop mine for a sec? That was beautiful, Ina. Okay, Ina, so there's been some questions in the comments. We're at the end of our hour. Some pretty specific questions, some more general ones. You mentioned wanting to connect with people. So what's the best way for people watching to get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I think if they can, if this makes their heart beat and they are keen to engage with us, the best way would probably be to email us at this stage. We're busy redoing our website. So from next week, towards the end of next week, I'd say our website is www.workforaliving.org. At the moment, it's an old website, but email me, I think, at ena@workforaliving.org.
Okay.
And then we can take it from there and see where you want to engage and how we can assist you. I think, though, if I may say, if you're needing help with business yourself or looking for a job, then if you can email info@workforaliving.org and somebody will refer you to a center nearby. But if you're looking to specifically start a group, a mentoring group, a disciple-making group, a business group, or in the future you're wanting to start a Work for a Living center that entails everything, if you can, in that case, you can email me.
Can you, off the top of your head, name the 9 countries where you are? I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot. I can't name all 4 of my children sometime. But if you can do all 9 countries off the top of your head.
So we've got South Africa, Eswatini, which is our neighbor, Zambia, we've got Kenya, Rwanda, Uganda, Tanzania. Then we've got in Mexico, we've got a center in the US. Then we've got wired centers right across a whole lot of South American countries. Mark and Serena Dunbar from Mexico. They've been running the WIRED program right from Venezuela to Uruguay, Paraguay, Honduras, Canada. I mean, it's just been going crazy there. So I think that covers it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Ina, I'm going to pray for you, and then I'm going to say goodbye to the audience. You can hang on for a second after I disconnect, but yeah, let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for our sister Ina. Thank you for just placing this conviction on her heart all those years ago, Lord, and for giving her the tools to do it, the willingness to do it, God. Thank you for using her as an agent of change in her community, in her city, in the world, Lord. Thank you for the way you've used her to advance your kingdom, God. We just pray blessings on her, Lord. We pray for protection from spiritual attack, Lord. We pray for wisdom in the way she continues to grow and adapt, Lord, especially in this uncertain season. God, we just pray that you would give her clarity of direction, that you would bring allies and coworkers around her, Lord, that can just execute this vision that she has, Lord, and that it would all be for your glory. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Ina.
you very much.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Folks, thanks so much for joining us again today. We really appreciate you being here. There's some links in the comments. They'll be there if you want to visit any of those things. Again, you can visit disciplenations.org to find out more about the resources we have available for you to equip yourself and others with biblical worldview. If you'd like to support the work of our mission, you can go to disciplenations.org/donate. And if you would just like to be in touch more with what we're doing, leave us a comment here on this Facebook video, send us a private message through Facebook, or you can email info@disciplenations.org. And you can also sign up for our newsletter right on our website. So front page, scroll down a little past halfway, and there's an invitation to sign up for our newsletter, see what's going on around the world. Again, thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next week. God bless.